Imagine this, you're a highly skilled medical professional doing your job, trying to help people out, but instead of support, you get harassed, you're bullied, and eventually you get fired just for speaking up. Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, it's not because that's exactly what happened to Ani Chopourian. She stood up for herself. She took her employer to court and she ended up winning a jaw dropping $167 million. dollars. And in this video, we're talking about workplace mobbing and ostracism, what it actually looks like, because trust me, guys, it's not always easy to spot. We'll cover the red flags you need to watch for and break down your rights. And most importantly, talk about what you can actually do if you ever find yourself in a situation like this. Hi, I'm Harlow Reed, employment lawyer, HR consultant, and creator of the HR Insider. And on this channel, I do more than share my legal opinion. I break down real legal cases to show how the law might apply to your situation. Okay, mobbing, ostracism, and retaliation at work. Guys, these are real issues, and it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, a nurse, an administrator, no one's immune to it. So, this is a really important topic for a lot of people. And if you've ever dealt with workplace bullying, felt isolated, or maybe like you were being a target for absolutely no reason, I want you to know that you are not alone. These situations can wear you down, affect your mental health, your confidence, and just how you show up in the world at work. And remember, every single one of us deserves to feel safe and respected at work. You, me, all of us. So let's get into it. The content on this channel is for informational purposes only and shouldn't be taken as legal advice. Always consult a qualified attorney or HR professional for guidance on your specific situation. And hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Ani Chopourian was a skilled physician assistant working in the cardiovascular operating room at Mercy General Hospital in Sacramento, California. She started in August 2006 and worked there for 2 years. Now, this wasn't just any job. Annie had some serious credentials. She graduated from the prestigious Yale University School of Medicine Physician Associate Program in 1999 and had been nationally certified ever since. And Annie had a really important job to go along with those credentials. She was responsible for assisting with high stakes heart surgeries, procedures like coronary artery bypasses, aortic and mitral valve replacements, and even congenital heart defect repairs. And the operating room, she wasn't just standing by. No, she was actually performing really important steps like vein and artery harvesting, sternum retraction, and other technical duties that directly supported the surgeons as they performed their work. So she worked alongside multiple heart surgeons across 4 different operating rooms and at 2 separate facilities. Things quickly took a turn for the worse at Mercy General Hospital. Just 2 months into the job, around October 2006, Annie spoke to her supervisor, Jean Scrafton, about not getting her legally required meal breaks. Now, for most of us, missing lunch is no big deal, but imagine being in surgery for hours without food. So Annie told her supervisor that going so long without eating left her feeling lightheaded, which she said during a high stakes surgical setting is not just dangerous for her, but potentially dangerous for patients as well. Well, it started with lunch, but it didn't stop there. Over time, Annie filed at least 18 complaints about very serious issues in the workplace. And they weren't minor, as I said, very serious. They included things like unsafe surgical conditions, bullying, verbal abuse from surgeons, and even mistreatment from her coworkers. Despite sounding the alarm repeatedly so many times, nothing was done to fix her environment. No one helped her. And her final complaint happened on July 31st, 2008, and that was just 8 days before she was fired. Now, here's where it gets messy. According to her on call schedule for August 2008, Annie had no indication she needed to be available for post surgical rounds on Sunday, August 3rd. She even called the assignment hotline the night before. There was no mention of her being needed, but that Sunday, she got a call from the hospital asking why she wasn't there to cover rounds. She explained the confusion and even offered to come in, but they told her not to bother because it was already covered. Just days later, on August 7th, 2008, she was terminated for failing to report to work. After her
Now, here's
termination, Annie filed a lawsuit against Catholic Healthcare West, which was the organization that ran Mercy General Hospital at the time. And her claims were very serious and so extensive. She wasn't just talking about being fired unfairly, she alleged that the entire work environment was toxic and unhealthy from the very beginning. Her allegations included workplace harassment, bullying, unsafe surgical conditions, verbal abuse from surgeons, retaliation for speaking up, wrongful termination, intentional infliction of emotional distress, can be very difficult to prove that one, by the way. And what makes this case especially powerful is that Annie wasn't just fighting for a paycheck. She felt like she was fighting for accountability. She wanted to show the people in the medical profession that they couldn't just push her around. They can't just push her out. They can't just discard her for standing up for what she was doing because what she was doing was the right thing. And she felt that in the professional environment where patient safety is literally on the line, she should have been applauded for her efforts to hold the hospital accountable. The trial didn't even begin until 2012. And remember, Annie was fired back on August 7th, 2008. So that's 4 long years just to get her day in court. 4 years of waiting, 4 years of fighting, 4 years of carrying the weight of what happened to her. And let's be real, anyone who's been through legal battles knows that going to court is never a quick fix. It's a long game for sure. But this is one of the longest timelines I've ever seen. And let's not forget who we're talking about here. This is a woman who is highly trained, uh, literally saving lives in the operating room, and yet she was treated with nothing but disrespect. It's hard to believe that someone with her skills, her dedication, someone who's doing such critical work would be so poorly treated. But that's the reality. It just shows that no matter how qualified you are, no one is immune to toxic workplaces. So, in the midst of this trial that's going on with Mercy General Hospital, in August of 2009, about a year after she had been fired, Annie decided that she wanted to secure a new job, a new position as a physician assistant, and she did find one at Radiological Associates of Sacramento, or RAS. And a key requirement for her to obtain this job was obtaining hospital privileges, again at Mercy General Hospital. But what happened was in March of 2010, during a deposition for her lawsuit, the defense lawyers accused her of violating medical privacy laws. There was never an investigation, no penalties or charges ever resulted from this accusation. It was never formally pursued. And here's the outrageous part: the accusation wasn't even valid. It had no real foundation, but it still messed with Annie's ability to get hospital privileges. And by June 8th of 2010, those privileges that she had at the hospital were officially denied. And without them, she couldn't keep her job at RAS. She couldn't get a job. And by June 21st, she was out of work again. I mean, seriously, can you believe this? They really put this woman through it. It's just unbelievable how far bullying and retaliation went in this case. Can you imagine? The details that came out at trial were shocking. Even to people who were familiar with high stress hospital environments, they were shocked. So imagine a layperson who's on the jury or someone like me who's reading through the case to hear evidence of surgeons actually throwing surgical tools at Annie, making sexual comments about her, even in front of other staff who weren't in the surgery room, but they heard some of the inappropriate comments that they made to her, which were demeaning. Many of her colleagues were deliberately excluding her from critical procedures, things that she needed to know about. And on top of all of that, an HR department that, despite receiving 18 official complaints, they did absolutely nothing at all. And what really struck the jury was the retaliation that she suffered. She had done everything right. She reported the issues through the official channels. She documented her experiences. They were well documented, but she still suffered.
And
She
what was
lost
just
her
as
career.
shocking here is how the retaliation didn't stop after Annie lost her first job. Even while she was in the middle of fighting this legal battle, the consequences just kept coming. That one accusation, completely unfounded, ended up costing her another job and ultimately derailed her entire career in medicine. It just goes to show how damaging workplace mobbing and ostracism can be, not just in the moment, but long after the initial fallout. And here's the thing, it's not just about targeting one person. When someone makes a move like this, it's about sending a message loud and clear. It's a way of telling everyone else in the industry this is what happens if you speak up. It's intimidation, plain and simple. And this part of Annie's story actually highlights something else that's really important because retaliation doesn't always look like someone directly firing you. It can be more subtle and insidious. And in this case, a false accusation during a legal proceeding was enough to derail her career without any official investigation or formal charges. And that's why employment laws around retaliation are so important. It's illegal for employers to retaliate against someone for filing a complaint or participating in a legal investigation. But as we can see here, the effects of workplace mobbing, harassment, and retaliation can reach far beyond the initial job that's lost. And that's what makes cases like this so significant for anyone in a high stakes career like healthcare. So, what did the jury decide? Again, this verdict was historic. They awarded Annie Chopourian $167 million in damages. And here's how it broke down 42.7 was for emotional distress and lost wages. But for emotional distress specifically, that's a very difficult thing to prove. So her attorneys met the standard. They did a great job, clearly, of meeting the standard required to demonstrate that she suffered that injury and then an additional $125 million in punitive damages that was meant to punish Catholic Healthcare West for their actions. But here is the real linchpin in the outcome of this case. They wanted to send a message that was very clear. This wasn't just a win for Annie. It was a wake-up call for the entire healthcare industry. The message was if you ignore harassment, if you allow bullying, if you allow mobbing to thrive in the workplace, and then you turn around and retaliate against someone who is speaking up about what they're experiencing, you are going to face very serious legal consequences. And I just have to add that, in my opinion, there was definitely some misogyny at play in the way Annie was treated. I mean, think about it. She was a woman working in a very male dominated field. And let's be real, women in those spaces are often expected to just go along with things, to stay quiet and tolerate behavior that wouldn't be accepted if it were happening to a man. But Annie didn't do that. And I really applaud her for that courage. She stood up for herself and she did it loudly and unapologetically. And I have said before, someone as accomplished and skilled as she was deserved to be honored and respected, not bullied, not belittled or pushed out just for speaking the truth. But what do you think? Did misogyny play a part in what Annie experienced? Now, let's talk about some of the red flags you should watch out for if you're working in healthcare. But honestly, this applies to any workplace. The first thing is if you're constantly being belittled, talked down to, or dismissed, especially in front of other people, that's not tough love or just a high stress job. That's toxic. And that's the kind of treatment that is a huge red flag that the work environment is unhealthy. Also, if you are excluded from important tasks or meetings, that's another big sign. You used to be a part of certain tasks and now you're being ostracized. And trust me, exclusion like that can be just as damaging as outright bullying. Also, if your workload starts to pile up for no clear reason, or you're suddenly being scheduled for shifts you weren't originally assigned, that's probably not just bad luck. It could be an early sign of retaliation, especially if it happens right after you've raised some serious concerns. And here's a big one. If you feel like speaking up will get you punished, or if you see your coworkers getting shut down or punished for raising issues, that's a huge red flag because no workplace should ever make you feel unsafe for doing the right thing. And of course, if you suddenly begin to receive negative performance reviews without any clear explanation, especially if it's after you filed a complaint or raised an issue to leadership, that could be a sign that you are being retaliated against. So don't ignore it. And in healthcare, this one is critical. If you're reporting unsafe conditions and management isn't doing anything about it, that's not just frustrating, it's dangerous. It's a sign that leadership isn't taking their legal obligations seriously, and it could be putting both you and patients at risk. So, if any of this sounds familiar, don't brush it off. Document everything, every incident, every occasion. Write it down and save those emails. And if things don't improve, get advice from human resources, from an employment lawyer or a professional organization. Contact the EEOC. I know speaking up can be hard, but staying silent in a toxic environment can cost you your career, just like it did for Annie. The Ani Chopourian case is such a powerful reminder that even in high stake professions like healthcare, employees can experience disrespect. They can be subjected to unfair treatment and even retaliation. But the law protects workers, even healthcare workers, from these types of injuries. And no one should be punished for standing up for their rights, especially when patient safety is on the line. Have you ever experienced retaliation or felt ostracized at work? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more legal breakdowns, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.